You know, when you look at a map, you see a bunch of lines. But what if a country's map wasn't drawn with ink? What if it was carved out by sheer force of will, by conflict? That's the story we're diving into today. Paraguay, a nation whose borders were forged in rivers of water and rivers of blood. And this quote just hits it right on the head. We're not talking about treaties signed in comfortable rooms. We're talking about a modern nation whose very shape is the direct result of two catastrophic wars that, honestly, almost wiped it from existence. These borders, they're a testament to survival against all odds. So, to really get a grip on Paraguay's struggles, you have to start with its geography. Because this isn't just a setting for the story. The land itself has been both a prison and an incredible fortress. Look, this isn't just about being a landlocked country. It's about being penned in by massive natural barriers. You've got these colossal rivers and this vast, thorny desert. And these weren't just features on a map. They were active players in the game, the real arbiters of war and peace. Think of it like there are three main characters in this geographic drama. First, you've got the Paraná River. It's one and only lifeline to the sea, to the rest of the world. Then there's the Alto Paraguay River, a strategic highway right into the continent's heart. And finally, the Gran Chaco, a huge, wild, semi-arid wilderness that was both a shield and a prize worth fighting for. Each one plays a huge role in this story. Okay, now we get to the first absolute cataclysm, a conflict so brutal, so devastating, it's still seared into the soul of the nation. We're talking about the War of the Triple Alliance. So picture this. From 1864 to 1870, tiny Paraguay is fighting a war against all three of its neighbors, Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay. The outcome wasn't just a defeat, it was an almost unimaginable disaster that forced Paraguay to give up huge chunks of its land, redrawing its borders by force. But the real cost? Wow, it wasn't even measured in miles of territory. Just let this number sink in for a second. It's estimated that by the end of the war, Paraguay had lost up to 90% of its adult male population. This was a demographic collapse so complete, it brought the nation right to the edge of extinction. On top of that staggering human tragedy, the country itself was literally carved up. As you can see right here, Paraguay lost about a quarter of its entire pre-war territory. Its new northern and southern borders were simply dictated by the winners. The map was rewritten in the ink of defeat. But then, just when it looked like things couldn't possibly get any worse, something totally unexpected happened. An intervention from halfway around the world threw Paraguay a surprising lifeline. Here's the deal. After the war, Argentina was claiming another huge piece of what was left of Paraguay, a massive part of the Chaco. But instead of more fighting, both sides actually agreed to let an international party decide. And who was that arbiter? The President of the United States, Rutherford B. Hayes. His ruling came down firmly in favor of Paraguay, saving a vital piece of territory that, to this day, is named the Presidente Hayes Department in his honor. All right, fast forward a few decades. A new threat emerges, and it's over that very same Chaco region. But this time, Paraguay would turn its greatest geographic weakness into its most powerful weapon. The battlefield for this next war was the Gran Chaco, a place known as the Green Hell. And let me tell you, it earned that name. We're talking about a brutal, practically waterless landscape of thorny scrub with just blistering, relentless heat. In the Chaco War, Bolivia and Paraguay weren't just fighting each other, they were fighting the land itself. And this is the absolute key to understanding what happened next. On paper, Bolivia had the better equipped army, but their soldiers were mostly from the high Andes, totally unprepared for this terrain. Their supply lines just collapsed. The Paraguayan soldiers, though, many were hacheros, woodsmen. They knew the Chaco. They knew how to survive there, where to find water, how to use the thorny brush for cover. They turned the Green Hell into their greatest ally. And the result? An absolutely stunning victory against all odds. When the peace treaty was signed in 1938, Paraguay was awarded sovereignty over about 3/4 of the disputed land. The same nation that was nearly erased from the map just 60 years earlier had now defended and secured a territory the size of a large country. So what does all this mean for Paraguay today? Well, here's where the story takes a fascinating turn. The very landscapes that were once bloody battlefields have been transformed into incredible engines of economic and energy power. Let's start with the Paraná River. For decades, it was a defensive line. a route for invading warships. Today, that same immense power is harnessed by the Itaipu Dam, a massive joint project with Brazil. It's one of the largest hydroelectric plants on Earth. A border of conflict became a shared frontier of incredible energy. And what about the Gran Chaco, that desolate green hell that cost so much blood to defend? Well, today, it's the heart of Paraguay's huge cattle industry. It's a primary driver of their entire modern economy. The thirsty battlefield has become the nation's breadbasket. At the end of the day, this is a story of resilience that's almost hard to believe. From being torn apart and facing total demographic ruin, Paraguay not only survived, it learned to master its brutal environment. It literally transformed the scars of its past into the foundations of its future. Which leaves us with this final thought. Paraguay's story proves that a nation's identity isn't just about the lines on a map. It's shaped by the memory of how those lines were drawn, how they were defended, and ultimately, how a country can build a future right on top of them. It's a powerful lesson in how the echoes of history shape the world we all live in today.